Hi, my name is Robin and I'll tell you more about myself a bit later on. This video presents an interesting way of handling DATs that I hope you will enjoy. Before we go any further, you should know that I am not a mathematician. My favorite maths teacher at school explained every single step slowly and carefully. I promise to do just that in this video. The method that we are going to use is called linear programming, LP for short. It's been used for years by major corporations to handle oil refinery problems, transportation and trucking services, forestry and farming, just to name a few. In earlier days, LP had to be run on powerful mainframe computers because of the number of calculations involved. However, today's iPad is every bit as powerful as yesterday's IBM 360. And sure enough, there's an LP app for the iPad. It's called iSolve Model, and instead of costing thousands of dollars, it's available for about $10. From now on, we will refer to the iPad app as iSolve. Now let's get started with figuring out what and how much you should eat in order to meet your goals of good health and/or weight loss. For the record, I have a doctorate in chemistry from the University of London, have worked for 2 major oil corporations, and have plenty of LP experience. However, all that is now in the past since I retired a few years ago. This video will be divided into several chapters. It will be easy for you to pause the video at the end of any chapter and continue sometime later on. In chapter 1, we're going to discuss a simple problem and use it to give you an idea how LP works. We'll call it the martini problem. I'll chat in person with you every now and then, but we'll also spend time explaining what you see on the screen. Here's the problem. A bartender mixes sweet martinis and dry martinis from bottles of gin and vermouth. 3 bottles of gin and 2 bottles of vermouth are available. Each bottle contains 20 measures. So, 60 measures of gin and 40 measures of vermouth are available. A dry martini is 5 measures of gin. A sweet martini is 1 measure of gin and 4 measures of vermouth. There is an unlimited demand for both martinis, so how many can the bartender mix? As my maths teacher would say, let the number of dry martinis equal D, let the number of sweet martinis equal S. Vermouth is used only for sweet martinis, so for vermouth, 4S equals 40. Gin is used for both martinis, so for gin, 5D plus 1S equals 60. Let's remember these 2 expressions in red as we move to the next screen. For vermouth availability, we have said 4S equals 40. For gin availability, we have said 5D plus 1S equals 60. This is a nice simple calculation because 4S equals 40, so S equals 40 divided by 4, so S equals 10. Then 5D plus 1S equals 60, but S equals 10, so 5D plus 10 equals 60. So 5D equals 60 minus 10, so 5D equals 50. So D equals 50 over 5, so D equals 10. So the bartender can mix 10 dry martinis and 10 sweet martinis and uses up all of the gin and all of the vermouth. However, as you know, in real life, everything gets more complicated when money becomes a factor. Let's make the bartender's life a little more complicated. Let's assume that there will still be unlimited demand for both dry and sweet martinis. Let's also say the profit on dry martinis is $2.70 and on sweet martinis is 55 cents. What drinks should the bartender mix for maximum profit? This simple problem will involve more calculations. Each calculation checks the bartender's profit for a different drink mix, and only one mix will make the maximum profit. For the record, LP says that the bartender should continue to make 10 dry martinis and 10 sweet martinis, and will use up all of the gin and all of the vermouth. However, if the profit margin on dry martinis is $2.80, LP says that the bartender should make 12 dry martinis and 0 sweet martinis, and the vermouth will be left untouched. LP solutions are known as optimal solutions. An optimal solution is the best possible answer to the problem, which, in this case, is how can the bartender make maximum profit. Bear in mind that LP does not do anything that you yourself could not do with a pencil and paper. It just does it a whole lot faster. In the next chapter, we will use iSolve on the iPad to build our martini model and calculate the optimal solution. Yes, I hear you saying we are here to discuss diets and not martinis. Just hang in there. This chapter will be a lot more useful if you have an iPad and have downloaded iSolve Model from the App Store. The logo looks like this. Now we are going to build an LP Martini model on our iPad. The mathematicians have done a great job in finding ways to solve problems using LP. Just think of LP as you would a cell phone. Don't care about the technology, just want to know how to use it. In life, there are constraints on nearly all activities. If you are driving on the road, the speed limit is, or should be, your constraint. If you are mixing martinis, you are constrained by the amount of gin and vermouth available. LP considers all possible activities and the associated costs or profit and constraints associated with those activities. iSolve can be instructed to find an optimal solution at minimum cost or, as in the case of our martini model, at maximum profit. LP gives the bartender the freedom to do whatever makes the most money. Thus, the original equations will appear in our LP model as. What this means is that the bartender is free to do as he or she pleases in order to make maximum profit, but is limited to a maximum of 60 measures of gin and 40 of vermouth. Now, let's fire up the iSolve app. When you touch the logo, this starting screen appears. The screen is not particularly friendly to an LP beginner. The symbol at top right will display help info, maybe of value later on once you have begun to use iSolve. The symbol at second right instructs iSolve to find the optimal solution to the problem. The plus symbol at top left is used when you want to create a new model. That's exactly what we will soon be doing. The symbol at second left will show all models currently on your iPad. The other two symbols on the left are not of interest at this time. The 5 lines of text are enough to scare away any beginner, but the first line tells iSolve to maximize profit on 2 activities, X1 and X2. The second line indicates that the constraints on X1 and X2 will follow next. The third and fourth lines specify the constraints on X1 and X2. The fifth line indicates the end of the LP model. Note that the commands max, subject to, and end model are mandatory and must appear in every iSolve LP model. Now, let's build our martini model. We will make things easier to understand if we describe activities in simple English words. So, dry will mean the number of dry martinis, and sweet will mean the number of sweet martinis. Let's go. We press the plus icon at top left to create a new model. Then, we enter the model name as Martini and press Save. Then we touch an empty part of the screen to confirm all is okay and the screen will clear. Then we touch the screen below the plus icon to begin entry of the text lines for our model. Here are the text lines for our Martini model. Note that the exclamation sign at the start of line 1 means the line is a comment only and is ignored by iSolve. Notice also that $2.70 is set up as the profit margin for a dry martini. If everything looks okay, we instruct iSolve to find the optimal solution. If all goes well, success looks like this. Press the OK button, then touch the Variables option at the foot of the screen to see details of the optimal solution. The only column of interest here is optimal value, which shows the number of dry and sweet martinis to be mixed. In this case, it's 10 dry and 10 sweet martinis. Touch the Solution option at the foot of the screen to see how many iterations, iSolve had to do to find an optimal solution. Touch the Model option at the foot of the screen to redisplay the original text. Change the profit margin for dry martinis from $2.70 to $2.80. Once again, instruct iSolve to find an optimal solution. Press OK, then touch the Variables option at the foot of the screen to see details of the optimal solution. Now, under optimal value, is 12 dry and 0 sweet martinis. Touch the Solution options at the foot of the screen to see how many calculations iSolve had to do to find an optimal solution. Touch the Model option at the foot of the screen to redisplay the original text. That's it. We now have a pretty good idea how iSolve works and we can close the app. Now we can go to Chapter 3 and start talking diets. Diets are becoming increasingly important. Many people are overweight and or diabetic. The high-fat Atkins diet and low-carb keto diets are specially formulated to assist with this problem, and there is now a lot of information on product labels. We will build an LP nutrition model to deal with aspects of weight loss and good health. The model will consider 20 different food and supplement options. It will take into account for each option the protein, fat, carbohydrate, and fiber content, and of course the price. The model will be built on our iPad and we will use iSolve to prepare a daily diet that meets our requirements. Let's consider the case of a 50-year-old male, 5'10" tall and weighing 205 pounds, leading a lifestyle that includes at least 30 minutes of moderate activity most days of the week. The BMI, Body Mass Index, calculator says he is overweight and should lose over 30 pounds. The Mayo Clinic estimates that he burns 2,750 calories a day to maintain his lifestyle at this time. After losing 30 pounds, he would need to burn 2,450 calories per day thereafter. Assuming no change in lifestyle, the only way for this gentleman to lose 30 pounds is to cut back on calories consumed. Let's assume that he sets himself a target of 2,450 calories a day in order to meet his goals. Let's also assume that he will limit himself to 100 grams of carbohydrates each day to be more sure of losing weight as fat instead of protein, according to Atkins. It's also likely that he will be advised to have a minimum protein intake of 130 grams and an intake of fiber between 31 and 38 grams. So, in summary, his daily diet limits are calories less than or equal to 2,450, protein at least 130 grams, carbs not more than 100 grams, fiber between 31 and 38 grams. Let's get started. We have taken information from product labels, from the internet, and from grocery stores. Accuracy is sometimes approximate, but fairly good overall. Here are the 20 foods and supplements we will use, with an analysis portion, the cost, and a nutrient breakdown of each analysis portion. It's important to note that carbs must be net of fiber. For example, if the analysis portion of an item shows 13 grams of carbs and 5 grams of fiber, the carbs must be reported as 8 grams for the nutrition model. So, here we go. We load iSolve and select the plus option to set up a new nutrition model. Then we say that this model must prepare a diet at minimum cost. Then we enter the costs for each analysis portion line by line. As you can imagine, this could take some time, especially if we were considering 100 foods. But more about that later. Now comes the command line subject to, meaning that all of the constraint lines will follow. Now we will enter lines to keep track of protein. At the end of the last line, we tell iSolve to accumulate grams of protein from all selected foods and store the total in a new activity called tot protein. Now we enter the lines to keep track of fat. At the end of the last line, we tell iSolve to accumulate grams of fat from all selected foods and store the total in a new activity called tot fat. Now we enter the lines to keep track of carbohydrates. At the end of the last line, we tell iSolve to accumulate grams of carbs from all selected foods and store the total in a new activity called tot carbs. Now we enter the lines to keep track of fiber. At the end of the last line, we tell iSolve to accumulate grams of fiber from all selected foods and store the total in a new activity called tot fiber. Then we put in a line to calculate and store total calories. Finally, we enter daily nutrition constraints specified for this 50-year-old man by his doctor or dietitian or the Mayo Clinic or whoever. The last line with N model says there's no more information and completes our nutrition model. That's it. The model is now complete. This model is significantly larger than the original Martini model and now really needs the power of a computer. We are going to use iSolve to see if we can get an optimal solution. Everything looks okay, so we instruct iSolve to find the optimal solution. It will do so. Press the OK button, then touch the Variables option at the foot of the screen to see details of the optimal solution. The optimal value column shows details of a diet which meets all nutrition constraints and at minimum cost. At the end, all the nutrition totals are shown, plus calories. They are 3.3 bananas, 300 grams of chicken, and 12.2 slices of wheat bread. After you have stopped laughing, let's think about it. This is just the lowest cost solution at $8.44 a day. However, it is not acceptable and we will need to make some changes. Of course, anything we do is going to increase the cost of the diet. We will make the changes and ask the computer to try again. iSolve has some commands that can assist. Integer section will allow you to specify items which, if they appear in the optimal solution, must be whole numbers. Upper bound section will allow you to specify items which, if they appear in the solution, cannot exceed a specified amount. So, we will tell the computer that bananas and wheat bread must, if they appear in the optimal solution, be whole numbers. We will also limit the amount of chicken in any optimal solution to 200 grams and the amount of wheat bread in any optimal solution to 2 slices. Here's how this is done. The new solution now costs $10.52, a 25% increase. It meets nutrition requirements but is still not really acceptable. It shows 3 bananas, 170 grams of cheddar, 200 grams of chicken, 437 grams of green beans, and 78 grams of pecans. I don't know about you, but I hate the thought of eating 437 grams of green beans at one sitting. Let's put a limit of 100 grams on cheddar and 50 grams on green beans and try again. Once again, we ask iSolve to find a new optimal solution. The new solution now costs $11.24 and meets nutrition requirements. It shows a quarter of an apple, 3 bananas, 100 grams of cheddar, 200 grams of chicken, 50 grams of green beans, 174 grams of pecans, 149 milliliters of 2% milk, 2 slices of wheat bread, and 0.44 of a scoop of whey isolate powder. This diet costs $11.24. It may or may not be acceptable, but you now know how to make constraint changes and try again. As long as iSolve continues to find an optimal solution, the diet will always increase in cost. However, if we make an error in constraints, it's possible that iSolve may not be able to find a solution. Let's have a look and see how this could happen. We will include a new constraint specifying that the solution must include 250 grams of chicken. However, this conflicts with the 200 grams specified as the upper limit for chicken. You will see a screen like this. Finding errors in an LP model is a time-consuming pain in the neck, but you will have no choice. Unfortunately, iSolve does not tell you what the constraint problem is. I have found that the best way is to remove constraints one by one and try again until an optimal solution is reached. Of course, the bigger the model, the longer it may take to find the problem. We have built an LP nutrition model using information from 20 different foods that can produce various diets that match nutrition specifications. These specifications involve protein, carbs, fiber, and calories. A good diet model is going to require information from many more foods, from 50 to 100, and will therefore be larger in size. In addition, more sophisticated models must take into account other aspects of nutrition. These include vitamins and minerals, plus any other nutritional constraints that your doctor or dietitian may specify. In the next chapter, we will talk about including these additional sophisticated features in the nutrition model. A lot more is known today about our nutrition needs, extending far beyond consideration of protein, carbs, fat, and fiber. The body's need for certain minerals and vitamins are now well established, and the power of LP is well suited to match the complexity of more sophisticated LP diet models. I am quoting from the internet, but here is a summary of the RDI recommended daily intake of 9 essential minerals and vitamins. Nutritional experts may not agree at all times, but this is a fairly good representation of their collective opinions. Let's see how the optimal solution from our last protein, carbs, and calories diet compare with nutritional needs today. These were the approximate results of our last optimal solution. We can calculate the amount of vitamins and minerals that are contained in this solution. This is what the results would be. Things look pretty good overall, but we do have some problems. Figures in red show that we are a bit high on fat and have exceeded the maximum RDI amount for magnesium. Figures in green show where we are less than the minimum RDI amount. In this chapter, we will look at a model that includes about 100 different foods, some dietary supplements, and 9 additional nutrients. It's a big model, and iSolve sometimes crashes in protest, but we can still get results. If we enter the previous optimal solution into this large diet model as fixed absolute amounts and asked it to clean up the magnesium problem, the answer would be no solution. There must be some constraint error. The model cannot reduce the magnesium levels. So, if we use the protein and carbs model to design our diets, there is a risk of having either insufficient or too much of some vitamins and minerals. Reaching for supplement pills is then a guessing game, which could just aggravate the situation. So, the large diet model is a better way to go because it will get everything right and remove the guesswork associated with diet supplementary pills. Let's have a look at some sections of this model. First screen shows the cost of each analysis portion of every food item in the model. Already you can tell this is going to be a big model. Too big for us to show you everything, just trying to give you an idea of the size and complexity. The next screen shows the lines for carbs and fiber. These sections are not as long as the previous one that showed costs, because not every food item has carbs and not every food item has fiber. The next screen shows the lines for folate and iodine, followed by the line to calculate total calories. The next screen shows examples of how you would enter any other personal constraints that you might want to see in this diet. For instance, the Atkins diet recommends that you consume at least 12 carbs a day of cruciferous vegetables. Not good news for meat lovers. Then we have to enter every nutritional constraint that was specified, including minimum and maximum levels. After that, we should enter an integer section line and include all the supplementary pills that are in the model, plus any other foods that you would want to see as whole numbers in the solution. Finally, be sure to include an end model command line. No point entering any other constraints at this time, as we just want to see if all is okay. So we will call for an optimal solution. We are in luck. No fatal input errors were encountered and an optimal solution has been found. This is the lowest cost solution to the problem and almost certainly will not be acceptable either because you do not have the food item in stock or you dislike that food item at this time and do not want it in your diet. Let's have a look. This diet does not look exciting, but it meets all nutrition specs and the cost of $9.07 is worth considering if our man is on welfare or otherwise short of funds. Just the same, it would be nice to see a more realistic result. Here's what we will do. Bananas and slices of bread should be whole numbers, and we will put a limit of 50 grams on green beans like this. The new optimal solution costs $9.99, is still not exciting, but once again meets all specifications. Definitely some room for improvement here, so let's talk about it. Diets are not usually yummy, and this one is no exception. But you can go on making changes, calling for more optimal solutions, and eventually produce one where you say, I can live with that. However, push too hard and the answer will eventually be no solution. There must be some constraint error. Remember that all optimal solutions are a perfect nutritional fit and take the guesswork out of what supplement pills you really need each day. It's a big step forward. In the next chapter, we will have a closer look at iSolve and talk about the pros and cons of this interesting software package. We will then outline some of the things that we have been able to do with iSolve while working with the Diet LP model. There are several LP programs for sale on the internet. They are all very powerful, very thorough, and cost thousands of dollars. iSolve, on the other hand, was written by a university professor to give students some experience in operations research and costs about $10. However, the integer and upper bounds commands in iSolve are powerful features that make it ideal for handling diet models. There is little, if any, validation of input, So things only go well when all lines of text are correct and properly formatted as per iSolve instructions. We just need to be aware of when and why problems occur, what causes them, and how iSolve reacts. From the start, we should develop two good habits. We should use the exclamation mark often to improve the clarity of the text. And we should keep a plus or minus character at the start of each line that defines costs or nutrient content. Watch out for missing or misspelled command words like upper bounds section, subject to, end model, and watch out for other non-command words that are not preceded by an exclamation character. If any of these problems are present, either iSolve will crash one or more times but can be reloaded and may then find the optimal solution, or iSolve will go into a continuous loop and never find an answer, or you will see this message without any other information. Watch out for conflicting constraints such as or. You will see this. When iSolve crashes, it's easy to reload and try again. iSolve remembers some or all of the previous effort and will retry. Keep on going for up to 12 retries and keep account of the various error messages. Then, if among the 12 retries you count 3 or more no solution messages and never see an optimal solution, there is definitely some conflict of input information. There's no option but to check all nutrition constraints carefully, fix the problem, and retry. Of course, if you get an optimal solution, there's no need to go any further. It's done. The beauty of LP is that its top priority is always to find a solution with minimum costs. So, if we were to remove all user constraints and call for an optimal solution, we would see this. Of course, that's not a surprise. If there are no nutrient requirements, the lowest cost is to do nothing at all. By now, you will have realized that Z is the total cost or profit in the optimal solution. Up to now, we have used LP to produce solutions at minimum cost. However, LP also has the ability to produce solutions at maximum profit, or, in this case, at maximum cost. Who would want to do that, you ask? Probably no one, but nevertheless interesting to see what would happen. We just change the min command to max, call for an optimal solution, and here's what we get. This diet meets all nutrition specs but costs $73.75 for the day. Without going into further detail, I can tell you that some changes would definitely have to be made, but it's nevertheless interesting to know that the lowest possible cost is $9.07 and the highest possible cost is $73.75. Finally, let's check the use of those two other symbols at top left. The third symbol from the left will allow you to make a copy of the entire LP model, which is just a text file. This copy can then be saved or transmitted. It's a good idea to make such a copy and save it as a backup. The fourth symbol from the left lets you set sensitivities and specify the level of accuracy in the calculations. We are just trying to produce a diet, not send rockets to the moon. So here is what I would suggest. We have now covered the technical stuff and the tough parts are behind us. In the next chapter, we're going to talk about how we can have fun with our model and use the power of LP to help with those tedious nutrition calculations. Most evenings, I will want to prepare a diet for the next day, and I check the fridge and storage cupboards to see what's available. Then, maybe after about 10 optimal solutions, I have my diet prepared. But here are two other special things I have been able to do with the LP model. First, if no diet was prepared the night before, I get up and have a good breakfast, 3 eggs, 2 strips of bacon, 2 slices of toast with marmalade, a mug of coffee and some fruit. After breakfast, I enter this information into the full diet model and tell it to find an optimal solution. iSolve will take my breakfast into account and calculate what else I should consume for the day. I may not be too happy with the first optimal solution, but I can make some changes, try again, and keep going until I get an answer that I can live with. My second option is to make my own diet for the day using LP to calculate nutrient totals. To do this, I remove all user constraints and enter what I want for breakfast and would like to have for lunch. Then I ask iSolve to find an optimal solution. Always looking for minimum cost, the optimal solution will be exactly what I have just entered, but complete with calculated nutrient totals. Then I can play around, adding and subtracting foods until all totals meet RDI specs. Takes a while, you must have a lot of information at hand, and, of course, the diet will not be minimum cost. In the next and last chapter, we will look at what else has been done to simplify diet model building, prepare reports, and allow for last-minute adjustments to a suggested diet. The main problem with an LP solution is that it's a jumble of useful information and needs to be sorted out and properly presented. Of course, this could be done fairly easily with a pencil and paper, but I decided to go for broke. iSolve optimal solutions can be emailed in simple text format, allowing for the creation of software on other computers to improve handling and report writing. I do not write code for iOS, but using an ancient software language, managed to write some programs that run on the Windows. The images that follow will give you an idea of how it all works. Maybe someone with iOS coding skills can duplicate this on the iPad. In summary, a file is created which contains nutrient information for each food or supplement item under consideration. This file is used to build the diet model and to assist with report writing. Here we go. This is the menu. Job 1 handles data file creation and maintenance. The next screen shows the information we maintain for each food item. Job 2 handles the display or printing of the data file. There is so much information that 2 separate reports are needed. Job 3 creates the lines of costs and nutrient content for the iSolve model. On the next screen, you will see some of the lines that record item costs. All this information can be emailed back to your iPad, greatly simplifying the building of the diet model. Job 4 prepares the diet report from the optimal solution results. Here is a sample. Job 5 allows for minor diet adjustments, recalculating nutrient totals. This can be a valuable tool on those occasions when one or more items in the diet report are unavailable at the last minute. Any adjustments you make will be instantly reflected in the total calories and nutrition totals. This is the screen before adjustments begin and after adjustments. If you are satisfied with the results of your adjustments, you can go ahead and prepare another diet report immediately. That just about wraps it up. We have come a long way from the start of the Martini model, and I hope everything was explained in a way that was understandable. If you would like to receive a file containing the calculation lines for the full diet model in text format, just email me at softshop@shaw.ca. There's no charge for this, but if you care to make a contribution to my ever-sinking fund, I do use PayPal. In any event, thank you for your interest and patient tolerance, and I hope that this video will be of some benefit.